The following is an independently produced community access program. The viewpoints expressed are those of the community access producer and do not reflect those of Shaw Cable Systems. The program is presented in response to CRTC policy guidelines regulating community programming.
Hello and welcome to Inside Out with Jan Dupuis. I'm your host, Jan. We have a great show for you tonight. We're going to be having a look inside the world of comedy. My first guest is Kirsten Van Ritsen. Kirsten is an actor, a teacher, a producer, and much more. Welcome, Kirsten.
Hi, Jan. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm very happy to have you here, and let's talk about how you first started your comedy career.
I do wear a lot of hats, as you mentioned. I actually started as an actor, and I went to an actor training program at university, and I soon discovered that comedy was what I loved doing the most, and so I've sort of had a parallel career doing theater. I started doing improv right away. That became a huge passion, and along the way I started adding other forms of comedy like sketch and stand-up, and that's led to all kinds of other projects like writing for television and performing in television as well. So I've really worked in all different formats of comedy, and it's really what I love doing the most.
And how long have you been doing it in Victoria?
I moved to Victoria just over a year ago, and I had been here on several previous occasions doing theater with a company called Kaleidoscope Theater, and so I knew it was a gorgeous city with a lot of talent. And what brought me here was a new television production company that a friend has begun. So I'll be involved in executive producing, writing, and performing a number of television projects as well.
So tell us about your stand-up comedy, and we're going to see a clip coming up. You can set us up for that.
Sure. After being an actor and improviser for about 10 years, I started doing stand-up, and what I've got for you is a tiny clip of a piece that I wrote that's really about the role of women in comedy, because it can be particularly challenging for women.
When you walk out on stage, the men in the audience will decide in the first 30 seconds whether or not they'd like to have sex with you. By now they have already decided that you are probably a lesbian. Never mind. As a female comic, you can play a bitch, a loser, or a slut. Everyone hates a bitch. No one likes a loser, and women hate sluts. So you may as well appeal to the male majority. Tell jokes about dogs and show them your tits. Hey, now the men are listening. The women will hate you, but they hate you already. You're on stage getting more attention from their boyfriends than they get at home. Too bad, stand-up is a dog-eat-dog world and there is no place for feminism. If you want to bond with chicks, go shopping.
So tell us about the character Louise that you developed.
Louise is, she's a partier, she's a bit of a wild and crazy lady, and she came out of one of the improv shows that I originally did in Edmonton, and then she went on to have her own life. She actually hosted an alternative comedy show in Toronto, and then I've done her in other cities, Vancouver and Victoria, and she gets to get away with saying pretty much the kind of jokes that I can't get away with. She's either raunchier than I will be, or she likes to flirt with older men.
Oh, okay. So she's having a lot of fun.
She has a lot of fun.
Okay, so set us up for this clip that we'll see now of Louise.
I'm pretty sure this is sort of a combination between what you might call alternative comedy and improv, and Louise also likes to bring people up from the audience and embarrass them a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So I think this is a joke that I kind of improvised.
And did this take place in Victoria?
This was in Toronto at the Second City.
Okay. Well, let's go and have a look now.
Itchy is launching Odeur 71, a new fragrance. The scent contains 71 unusual ingredients, including the smell of dust on a hot light bulb, mixed with fresh pencil shavings and lettuce juice. I swear, if you think I'm making this up. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm thinking if I want to smell like the dust on a light bulb, I'm not going to trot on down to Yorkville and drop 200 bucks. I'm thinking I'm going to get myself a big lamp and just rub up.
And when will we be seeing Louise again?
It's hard to say. Louise pops up several times a year, and whenever I don't feel like doing just stand-up comedy as myself, sometimes Louise will come out instead and she'll do the raunchy stuff, and I have a lot of fun with her. So keep your eyes peeled. Louise can show up.
She'll just show up.
She'll just show up at a comedy club near you
when we least expect it.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm aware that you also had worked on a sitcom in the past. What was that like? How did you get involved with that? And what was it like creating a sitcom?
Well, I got to write it, which was fabulous because I've sort of written little bits of, you know, stand-up or sketch for myself and some plays, material for the theater. And this was my big chance where I actually wrote. I came up with the concept and I wrote the scripts myself. And what was so fantastic was to get so much positive feedback for all the actors who were auditioning and everyone who came on the technical side of it, makeup, from makeup to costume to design. They all said how funny the scripts were. So that was a huge validation for me that the kinds of comedy that I'd been doing I could put into a new format. So I got to be the star of it as well. So of course I wrote myself the starring lead role. And I had a wonderful cast. And we filmed 4 pilot episodes that unfortunately never got to be aired, but I brought you a tiny clip of one of them.
Yeah, and we are going to see that in a minute.
See it? Yeah, the other actor is Vincent Tong. I had an amazing cast, so it was a real treat to get to do that.
Oh, absolutely. And what was it like to actually bring everybody together and decide how to grow this script?
I had a huge amount of independence. In Hollywood, there's usually layers and layers of studios and notes and different people telling you what you can and can't do.
Right.
But I had complete freedom to really write what I wanted to. And I brought sort of my entire background as far as the kind of farcical elements that happen in theater, I put into the script. So we filmed it live, 3-camera live. And so the actors had to perform not only for the camera, but for a live audience, which for some of them was a completely new and novel experience. They're used to, you know, you film in television and film and you get to do a couple of takes or stop. But we just barreled through like it was live theater. And what was rewarding was getting to hear the audience's laughter. So there was no laugh track. Their laughs were genuine. And for me as a writer, that was a huge gift to know, here's the lines that I thought would be funny. Woo, they actually got the laughs.
Let's have a look.
Heartmatch.org? It sounds like a site for organ donation.
Your social life needs a transplant. First, you complete your profile.
Height, 5'9".
Too tall, but 5'6".
Weight?
96 pounds.
I'd be dead.
Men think anything over 100 sounds fat. Here, let me do it.
Hobbies?
Skydiving, spelunking, swimming with sharks.
Even if I had life insurance.
You need to seem adventurous. Now let's add something domestic. Gourmet French cooking.
I don't know how to debone a duck.
It won't come up. Now, describe yourself in 1 sentence.
I am a big old liar, just like everybody else on these sites.
Wrong answer. You are gorgeous, vivacious, eloquent, and charming.
Ooh, why don't I just date you?
Wrong gender. Now, list the dimensions of your perfect mate.
Dimensions like circumference? How specific do we need to get?
You know, like personality, attributes, your shopping list.
Oh, okay. Tall, athletic but not a jock, smart, funny, well-read, well-traveled, financially and emotionally secure, not a pervert, not a loser. Oh, and he has to floss. Is that too much to ask?
Let's just put single.
So Kirsten, you recently performed a one-woman show. Tell us about that.
It was called All My Day Jobs. I did it here in Victoria at the Victoria Fringe, and I had done workshop productions of it elsewhere in Canada, in Vancouver and Regina. And it was basically based on the concept that as an actor, I've had a zillion different kinds of day jobs. Any kind of menial task that you do for money, just to pay the bills, just to get through. And so I took all of those and I put them into a play. And it was actually my, I think, 7th one-woman show. So it's a format that I've done on many occasions. And it's just a great format to do as far as an actor because it's just you. So it's really easy to organize rehearsals, but the closing night parties are kind of lonely.
I guess. And what about, how is it different than doing your stand-up?
It's completely different because even if I'm saying that this particular character is based on my real life, it's still a character, and I'm playing myself. In this particular production, I played myself at several different ages, but I also played about 30 other characters, my bosses and other employees and friends and that. So I sort of snapped from one character to the other, and it is theatrical, even though I'm sort of talking to the audience. It's quite different than stand-up. For me, stand-up, you are having a one-on-one conversation. You're playing a version of yourself, but it's a lot more personal, and you're listening for those laughs, but there's very much a give and take. So there's a lot in common in terms of exploring the comedy and what's the kind of line that will get a laugh. But in my play, I got to put in physical comedy as well. At one point, I was juggling plates.
All right, well, we're going to have a look at that now.
All right, Damien, that's it. Time out in the corner. No, there's no arguing. Testicles are very delicate organs. You should know that. Sirhan, do you need an ice pack? No, okay, then just lie down for a bit in the corner. Yeah, Braden, no, we do not call each other names here. No, just because Sirhan is crying does not mean he is homosexual. And if he does grow up to be homosexual, well, he might be a talent agent or a casting director, so think about that, huh? All right, boys, I know, let's play zoo animal. No, Jason, stop biting Chad. No, in our zoo, all the lions and the gazelles get along. Oh, great, now there's blood. That's it, boys, that's it. We are going to play frozen statues. Statues don't move and they don't talk. Oh, I know, we played this last week. We are going to play it again. I lock them in.
So the last clip we're going to see is from your improvised performance with Sin City.
That's right, it's called Sin City, the live improvised soap opera. We're Carney's traveling sideshow performers in 1931, and we are performing this show right here in Victoria on Tuesday nights at the Victoria Event Centre. So I just wanted to show you a little bit about what that is like. It's all improvised.
That's amazing.
When a man and a woman have sown their seeds in Saskatchewan.
I think she's talking about farming.
That's right, the man has a plow.
Okay. Make sure you're listening.
And he likes to plow over and over again to make sure the seeds are planted deep. It's not nearly as good. The Mother Earth receives the seed, and it's moist. That's the best environment to grow your crop.
It's a lot of men in Saskatchewan are plowing. I haven't seen many trees.
No, it's very dry here. Make that assumption about the farmers here that they're not good with their plow. However, one does not farm unless one is committed to one's acreage.
Stay with us, and after the break we're going to be meeting Shelley Suzuki, who took 2 courses with Kirsten and is now performing stand-up comedy in Victoria. We'll also hear about upcoming events and courses in 2012.
You're watching an independently produced community access program. The viewpoints expressed are those of the community access producer and do not reflect those of Shaw Cable Systems. The program is presented in response to CRTC policy guidelines regulating community programming.
Welcome back to our conversation on comedy with Kirsten Van Ritsen, and we're joined now by Shelley Suzuki, who has taken Kirsten's classes in stand-up comedy, and we're going to hear about her experience and a whole lot more. So Shelley, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jan.
Tell us how you got started in stand-up comedy.
Well, actually I moved here in January from Winnipeg, and I took some improv, and I was looking for something else to do, and I saw an article in the paper about Kirsten's class and thought, you know what, I think I might want to do that. And I joined up and loved it, and it was 8 weeks, and then I went on to take her second level, and that's where I got started. So basically just popped up and thought, yeah, I think I can do this. People have told me I'm funny, and
right.
Yeah, so Kirsten basically opened that up for me.
And what was that experience like from beginning to the end of the second course?
It was great. The thing I liked about it the best was that Kirsten has this way of making people feel very comfortable, because when you're doing comedy, you have to feel comfortable because you're talking about personal stuff. So basically she's telling you, okay, I want you to write about relationships. I want you to write about this. So you bring it into the class and then you have to perform the 10 jokes. So it's really important to make that comfort level. And it was nice because everybody was there to support you because they wanted to be supported too. So yeah, it was a great experience.
And what was it like the first time you got up on stage?
That would have been the first time was after our first level class. So we performed for friends and family, and it was very nerve-wracking throughout the day preparing for it. But as soon as I got on stage, it was like the cone of silence or cone of comedy came over me, and felt really excited and energized by the crowd, and it was a very positive experience, which made me want to go and do more. And then she offered another level, and then I was able to take that and wanted more. It's kind of like an addiction sort of thing.
It becomes that way.
But one you don't have to go to rehab for, hopefully.
Right, and you can laugh a lot about it, right?
Yeah, that's great.
And well, Kirsten, when people are joining your class, well, what does it take for someone to get into the class and be prepared to get up on stage?
Well, I'm certainly aware that it's terrifying for most people. You know, they say that public speaking is the #1 fear, but I think this is even scarier because you're up there with a microphone and people aren't just listening to a speech, you're expecting them to laugh. So that's why Shelley mentioned I try to make it comfortable for people and nobody gets mocked, and I keep it a really safe environment where people encourage each other because I'm aware of how terrifying. And sometimes people want to chicken out of that final show because they're a little bit nervous. They're afraid they might bomb. Yeah. And I push them really hard because I know that they'll do well, and I'll never put someone up if I don't think they'll do well. And so for them, it becomes this huge accomplishment to go, I was terrified, but I did it, good for me. And for some people, it's like a bucket list thing, like, awesome, I did that, I did stand up. Now I'm gonna go jump off a plane with a parachute because that won't be as scary. But for a lot of people like Shelley, it opens this whole new avenue of, like you say, an addiction to getting the laughs, to getting up on stage, the challenge of bringing your own personality and sharing that with others and getting the reward of laughter.
And your own sense of humor and the kind of things that you find funny, taking those things and turning them into stories, basically, right?
Yeah, and really, I think through Kirsten, it's learning the difference between telling a story and being a comedian. So it's based on your life. I think that's what makes it funny.
Right.
And if you're an observer of life, and especially your own life, and you can put yourself out there, and then she tells you, well, doesn't tell you, but teaches you how to set it up.
How to do it.
So that you have a premise, and then the comedy, and then the callbacks, and then the punchline. And so it just, I don't know, for me it was almost a life-changing moment because I got to take some dark moments in my life and try to make them funny. And so it's putting yourself right out there.
And that's true for a lot of people, is that if you just set out to go, well, what's funny, and you go to your toilet humor or you know, that kind of stuff that you think will be funny, it becomes quite cliched and everyone tells those jokes. But I push people to kind of dig inside their lives, and the more maybe challenges that you've had in your life, if you've gone through a divorce or any kind of emotional upheaval, that's actually really good for comedy, to dig into the pain, because the flip side of that is the comedy. It's hugely great for the audience to relate to whatever dark side you've been in if you can put in comedic terms. And then it's original and it's yours.
Right. And you're really sharing a deeper part of yourself with the audience.
Yeah, it's almost a little bit like therapy on stage.
Right.
But then you have that, you know, that approval or disapproval right away. But it's like, this is me, this is my experience, and how can I make this funny? And then sharing that with other people. And I think the really rewarding thing is when people came up after and say, you know what, I've gone through that, and I never looked at it that way. And now every time I go to something, I see that now. And that's really rewarding. I mean, the laughs are rewarding, but also getting that feedback afterwards is really rewarding.
At its best, I think comedy can be social commentary as well. So by sharing your own personal story about whether it's a death in the family or a divorce or mental illness or whatever upheaval you might have had, by putting it into comedic terms, you're sort of making an insight into human nature. Right, and so to me that's the best form of comedy, is we're laughing at it, but there's insight.
And people can relate to, because people are relating to what you're saying, and they're probably happy that someone is up there actually talking about this in a way that is kind of lighter, maybe.
I think it's really helpful for the person who is the comedic person, and then to share. It's really a lot to put yourself out there as the joke. You're not really making fun of yourself, but you're seeing the, you know, there's the light side and the dark side, and making friends with both, and then sharing that with people. So you're really connecting. You can almost feel the energy between you and the audience. For me, it was just like, okay, this is me. I'm not hiding it. I'm actually sharing it.
Exactly.
To make it normal.
And so what have you been doing since the 2 courses?
I've been involved in actually 3 female comedy shows. One run by another fellow student from Kirsten's class. And then at Ratfish Comedy, I did all women's comedy there. I'm often at Victoria Event Center for Phillips Comedy Night, which is every 2nd Sunday of the month. I've done a few Ratfish ones. We're a few open mics.
And you recently won
Oh
the
yeah, I
Showdown.
recently won the Showdown, which is actually a new thing at the Victoria Event Center.
Okay.
And there's been 2 episodes. So it's 7 comedians, 7 minutes, and the audience actually gets to vote for their favorite comedian.
Right.
So it gives you a chance to showcase yourself, but also a chance to win. So I won last month, and now this Sunday I'll be defending my title.
Excellent.
Boxing gloves on.
Yeah, put the boxing gloves on, and it's nice to be able to have that extra 2 minutes, because usually you have 5, and to have the 7 is nice. And you're writing, and to write 7 sounds like it's not a lot of time, but you have to put a lot of effort into writing fresh. So I'll be doing all new material this Sunday than I did last time.
Excellent. So we'll make sure before the show's over we've let everybody know what's coming up in terms of that show and the improv and your classes. Let's talk about your classes for a second now. So you've got some new classes starting in January?
I do. I'm starting a new introductory course starting January 23rd, and I've had a lot of interest so far. And it's for anybody of any walks of life. You don't have to have any previous experience as a performer or comedian or anything. But almost everyone says, you know, I've always secretly wanted to do this, or people have told me I'm funny. And it's this, often it's a long-held desire. And so I push them and I say, sign up for the class. And I, as Shelley mentioned, I teach you a lot of ways of leaping beyond the beginner mistakes. Because normally if you go to an amateur night in any given city, comedians will get up for the first time, they'll be terrified and they'll make all kinds of horrible mistakes, and then they'll not feel really good about themselves. But by taking the class, I give you a lot of the shortcuts. So by the first time you get in front of an audience, people think you've got like tons of shows under your belt. Like people say all the time, I can't believe, you know, that was Shelley's first performance, or any of my other students, I can't believe that was their first performance, because they were just so confident and they had really good material. And I love teaching because of the variety of people that walk through the door. They're from every walk of life, every kind of job you can imagine, people who aren't employed or between jobs, and they tend to have really good material because they've got time to write and a good sense of humor about where they're at in their life. And I've just so enjoyed all the different kinds of people that I get to meet, and they're sharing about their lives and where they're at as well. So there's a huge amount of trust.
Rewarding.
It's rewarding because they do put trust in me, and I respect that they're terrified, and yet they're willing to come and share these aspects and to sort of give it a try.
Right. So Shelley, what's this meant to you in your life to have this kind of new experience? And how has it affected you, or has it changed your life in a way that you'd like to tell us about?
For me, I think it's changed my life in all sorts of ways. I've always thought funny. Like gone through my life thinking funny stuff, and I was kind of that quiet person that was an observer, and never really had an avenue to explore it. So now it's kind of let my spirit speak, and it's really given my spirit a voice. It's given me confidence about myself, lots of connections, and lots of interests that I did some improv with Kirsten.
Oh, you are doing some.
Kirsten, and I did some other improv. So I'm interested in other things that all kind of overlap and helps build the comedy part. I did some spoken word. So things that I never ever thought I would actually try. Now it's all like, wow, it's really, just my spirit just feels really happy.
Has there anything happened in your performances that you completely did not expect?
Not really. I mean, you're always, you have to listen as a performer. it's really important to listen to the performers in front of you. There might be something you can riff off of, and something might happen to the mic, or the MC might say something, introduce you in a certain way, so you have to pay attention and kind of be on your toes, so that could actually be a funny part of your act.
Oh,
and
that's
that
great.
Actually happened to me on Sunday when I performed.
Did it?
Yeah, I was introduced a certain way, and I was listening, and I was able to use that, and actually that was my biggest laugh, I think, for my whole 5-minute set.
That's fabulous.
Yeah. So, you know, those kind of things, it's just really listening and finding comedy everywhere. So, yeah, it's changed my life totally for the positive. Yeah.
So just as we wrap up in the last couple of minutes, let's make sure everybody hears about what's coming up in the new year. So we've got your comedy class. We've got the Sin City Improv.
That's right, Sin City Carnies.
Yes,
We're January 17th until April 17th every Tuesday at the Victoria Event Center. And I showed you a little clip of that. And it's a continuing story. So it's like improvised theater. We play the same characters every week, and the story continues from week to week. And it will actually wrap up at the end of April. And this is a format that my partner, director Ian Ferguson, and I actually created more than 20 years ago with a wonderful company in Edmonton called Dynasty.
Right.
They're still going in their 20th year. Ian and I moved to Toronto, and we created the Sin City company with Second City alumni. So when we moved to Victoria, one of the first things I said is we have to start a Sin City company here.
Right.
We found some really wonderful, amazing, talented improvisers who are in our troupe, and so Carnies is actually our second season.
Is there a website that people can go to find out what's happening locally with comedy? You know, more about
There's
the
a number
improver?
of places. SinCityImprov.com is where you can find about my show. My classes are at KirstenVanRitsen.com.
Okay.
And if you're a friend of Facebook, and who isn't, there's Victoria Stand Up is a group, and a lot of the shows are listed there. There's a mini boom actually going on in Victoria right now. When I first moved here, there was maybe only one amateur night, and now all of a sudden there's at least 8 amateur nights per month, which is fantastic.
Well, thank you so much, Kirsten and Shelley, for joining me today. It's been great, and I'm sure that you've inspired and motivated some people to take a new step in their life.
I
in the
hope
new
so.
year.
Thank you for
Try out
having us.
comedy. And thank you for joining us. If you'd like to contact me, you can reach me at Inside Out with Jan Dupuy at shaw.ca, and you can follow me on Twitter at Jan Dupuy. As we go out, I'll mention that I did have the opportunity to take Kirsten's comedy class this fall, and I loved it. It was very challenging, nerve-wracking, and we did have our class performance with family and friends last Friday night at the Mocha House, and we're going to end the show with a little clip of my debut stand-up performance. See you next time.
When I was thinking about taking a course this winter, I really wasn't thinking, now what is the most terrifying thing I could possibly do? I mean, what would scare the living hell out of me? I know, stand-up, that would be really good. No, I was thinking, look, winter's coming, I find winter really hard. I work at home, I have to find something to get me out of the house and have some fun. And so because I work at home, I don't have a lot of contact with. Does anybody else here work at home? Anybody in your pajamas? Your underwear, right? So, well, I'm at home in my office attire, in my bathrobe, and I have my computer, and I've got my big sad light and my big bottle of vitamin D to help me get through the winter. And I spill my coffee on my bathrobe. It's like, oh, you know, and if you're in an office with coworkers, I mean, that would be like, oh my God, I spilled coffee on my shirt. What am I going to do? Does anybody know how to get this coffee out? But when you're at home, it's like, well, I could try to get that out. So I'm sitting there, and you know, it's pouring rain outside. It's cold. It's Victoria. And I look at my watch, and I think, oh, how much longer before I can go back to bed?
The proceeding was an independently produced community access program. The viewpoints expressed are those of the community access producer and do not reflect those of Shaw Cable Systems. The program is presented in response to CRTC policy guidelines regulating community programming.